The way that he died was also, in my opinion, it was miraculous. You know, brothers and sisters, you and I, when we get a paper cut, we say, ah. Imagine you're in prayer. You know that you're gonna get struck. You know, if you and I were praying, we'd be looking, we wouldn't be able to face the Qibla. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam in sujood, he's hit with a sword, a sharp sword that was soaked in poison. Human beings naturally, Amir al-Mu'mineen is a human being. He has a nervous system, he feels pain. But don't you think it's amazing that when he was hit on his head in sajda, he doesn't even say ah. Can you imagine that? It would be natural for someone to express pain. He's hit with a sword and he says, Fuztu wa Rabbil Kaaba. Isn't this miraculous? His birth was in the Kaaba, and when he was hit in the mihrab by the Lord of the Kaaba, I'm successful. As we've gathered here tonight to reflect on the life of one of the most unique human beings that was ever born or will ever be born. Thousands upon thousands of books have been written about the personality of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Thousands upon thousands of lectures have been delivered that shed light on various aspects of his life. But the reality is, my respected brothers and sisters, is that Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam will remain a human mystery until the Day of Judgment. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, la basallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. He says, Ya Ali, ma arafa Allah illa ana wa ant. O Ali, no one knows God. No one has true ma'rifah of Allah other than me and you. And this is an astonishing hadith, because the Holy Prophet ﷺ doesn't say that me, you, and the Anbiya that came before us. The ma'rifah of these two individuals supersedes all others. And if you want to gain a glimpse into the knowledge that Ali ibn Abi Talib has about God, read the first sermon in Nahjul Balagh. The way that the Imam alayhi salam speaks about God. You know, oftentimes you hear about debates between Sunnis and Shi'as, and the Shi'as are trying to prove that Ali ibn Abi Talib should have succeeded, or he is the rightful successor of the Prophet, that he's the most knowledgeable. The best evidence is Nahjul Balagha. If you can bring one companion of the Prophet that could describe God in the same way as Ali ibn Abi Talib, we would follow that person. Ya Ali, ma arafa Allah illa ana wa ant. And then the Prophet continues, wa ma arafani illa Allahu wa ant. The Prophet says, even me, no one truly knows me except Allah, the one who created me, and you. These two individuals were inseparable. And this is another reason why we follow Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali ibn Abi Talib knows God better than any of the companions. And Ali ibn Abi Talib knows the Prophet ﷺ better than anyone else. But then listen to the last part of the hadith. وَمَا عَرَفَكَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَأَنَا. And no one knows you, O Ali, except Allah and me. No one truly can appreciate the essence and the greatness of Ali ibn Abi Talib except the Prophet. You know, there's a tradition that says Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, he once walked into a room. This was during the lifetime of his father, Imam Zainul Abidin. He walks into the room and he sees his father exerting himself in ibadah, in dua, prostrating, bowing, supplicating, spending hours upon hours. You know, you and I, if the Imam who's leading the Jama'ah prayer, if he recites Surah Al-Fatiha and he recites, Surah Al-Fajr, we say this is probably the last time I'm going to pray behind this guy. We don't have the patience to endure prayer because we see it as a chore. But when you're enjoying something, especially kids, when they're playing video games, they don't even feel the time passing. You're sitting and you're watching your favorite movie, an hour and a half, 2 hours go by, you've been sitting in the same place, and you're fine. You can sit in the same place, your feet don't even hurt. You're not even thinking about how sore your feet are. But if you sit and you listen to a fiqh session or Sheikh Azhar's lecture, 5 minutes and you're already getting restless. Yes? It's because when you enjoy something, you forget the pain. You forget the discomfort when you're enjoying something. When your mom calls you, 5 minutes on the phone is too much for you. But when you're engaged, mashallah, 3-4 hours, you don't get tired of talking because you're in love. Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam was exerting himself in ibadah to the point where his son Imam al-Baqir became worried about him. He says to his father that I worry that you may get sick, that you might that you're overwhelming yourself. Imam Zainul Abidin, he says, oh my son, open up that box. There was a box in the room. Open it. He took out a thick book. This was the Mus'haf of Ali ibn Abi Talib, containing the wisdom that Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam wrote. Many of it was dictated by the Prophet. He tells him, open up to such and such page. Imam al-Baqir opens up to that page and he says, bring the book to me. Imam Zainul Abidin starts reading. He reads one of the pages that describes the ibadah of Ali ibn Abi Talib. He puts it down and he says to himself, who can worship like Ali ibn Abi Talib? Imam Zainul Abidin, his name is Zainul Abidin, the ornament of the worshippers. He says, I cannot worship God with the same intensity as Ali ibn Abi Talib. And then you know what Imam Zainul Abidin says? He says, my ibadah compared to Ali ibn Abi Talib is like the ibadah of Ali ibn Abi Talib compared to the ibadah of Rasulullah. So even Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam is not able to worship God in the way that the Prophet did. That's why when Amir al-Mu'mineen was on his deathbed, Sa'sa' ibn Sawhan, one of the companions and the lovers of Ali ibn Abi Talib, he knew that Amir al-Mu'mineen is on his deathbed. Time is very limited. So he asks him a number of questions to try to get an understanding of the maqam of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He asks him, who is superior, you or Adam? Who is superior, you or Ibrahim? And he goes down the list. One of the questions that he asks Amir al-Mu'mineen, who is superior in the eyes of God? Anta am Isa? Isa ibn Maryam, the great messenger of God, Ruhullah, the Spirit of God. He was able to revive the dead, filled the world with miracles. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he discloses this type of information to very special people who have the ability to bear this type of knowledge. The Imam says, أَنَا أَفْضَلُ مِنْ Isa. I am better than Isa ibn Maryam. Why? The Imam mentions something related to his birth. He says, when Maryam was pregnant with Isa, كانت في البيت المقدس. She was in the sacred temple when she was pregnant and about to deliver Isa alayhi salam. فجاءها النداء. She heard a call. يا مريم اخرجي يا مريم. You have to leave, O Maryam. ها هنا محل عبادة لا محل ولادة. O Maryam, you have to leave the temple because this is a place of worship. This is not a place to deliver a child. Because when women give birth, there's potentially blood. It's not a suitable place to give birth. And then Amir al-Mu'minin says, but when my mother was pregnant, she came to Masjid al-Haram and she clinged on to the Kaaba. And she asked Allah Azza wa Jal to make her delivery easy for her. And the Imam alayhi salam says the walls of the Kaaba split and she heard a voice saying, enter, O Fatima. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. So Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam is a unique personality. Everything about him is unique. The circumstances of his birth, they were unique. It was a miraculous birth. The way that he died was also, in my opinion, it was miraculous. It's not, brothers and sisters, you and I, when we get a paper cut, we say, Imagine you're in prayer. You know that you're going to get struck. If you and I were praying, we wouldn't be able to face the Qibla. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam in sujood, he's hit with a sword, a sharp sword that was soaked in poison. Human beings naturally, Amir al-Mu'mineen is a human being. He has a nervous system, he feels pain. But don't you think it's amazing that when he was hit on his head in sajda, he doesn't even say Can you imagine that? It would be natural for someone to express pain. He's hit with a sword and he says, Fuztu wa Rabbil Kaaba. Isn't this miraculous? His birth was in the Kaaba, and when he was hit in the mihrab by the Lord of the Kaaba, I'm successful. I have won. What did he win? For most people, this is a tragedy. What did you win? The Imam alayhi salam is expressing a phrase of celebration. What is he celebrating? He's celebrating the victory over his nafs. Your whole life, it's a struggle against your nafs. Amir al-Mu'mineen on that day, he declared victory. He declared victory. He had so many external enemies. The dunya presented itself to Ali ibn Abi Talib over and over and over again, but he never yielded. He never yielded. He stayed on the straight path. He was the embodiment of the straight path. So now I want to go, this was just a brief introduction. I want to go back to the ayah that I began with. Surah Al-Fatih, Surah 48, ayah number 29. It's a beautiful verse. The Quran is very beautiful when you reflect on each word that is in the ayah. What does the verse say? Muhammadun Rasulullah والذين معه أشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم. Muhammad is the messenger of God. That first part of the ayah is very clear. Muhammad is the messenger of God. وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ, and those who are with him. What does it mean? So then Allah says, and those who are with him, they are very firm with the disbelievers, and they are very merciful with the believers. It's a very specific quality. Now, what does the Quran mean when it says وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ, and those who are with him? With him in what sense? Physically with him? When Rasulullah is sitting and he has a huge halaqah of people around him, are these people الَّذِينَ مَعَهُ? No, it's not what the verse is talking about. Because the Prophet has a lot of munafiqeen who are surrounding him. Allah in Surah At-Tawbah, what does he say? وَمِمَّنْ حَوْلَكُمْ مِنَ الْأَعْرَابِ مُنَافِقُونَ وَمِنْ أَهْلِ الْمَدِينَةِ مَرَدُوا عَلَى النِّفَاقِ. So there are people around the Prophet, with the Prophet in the physical sense, but they don't fit the description of the ayah. So the ayah is not talking about those who are physically around him. And the ayah is not even saying, the ayah didn't say Muhammadun Rasulullah وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. You see, there are different types of people who are with the Prophet. The munafiqeen are with the Prophet in the physical sense. They're not described in this verse. There are Muslims who joined Islam because Islam just became too powerful to fight in the battlefield. Allah, what does he say in Surah Al-Hujurat? قالت الأعراب آمنا قل لم تؤمنوا ولكن قولوا أسلمنا ولما يدخل الإيمان في قلوبكم. Say that you submit because you don't have iman yet. Faith has yet to enter your heart. So this ayah is not talking about just Muslims who declared the Shahada. Why didn't Allah say الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا Muhammadun Rasulullah وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا? No, Allah didn't say those who believe. Because even among the believers, there are different classes, different degrees. Even on the Day of Judgment, on the Day of Judgment, you would think there are only two places, Jahannam and Jannah. So people should just be divided into two groups. Ahlul Jannah and Ahlul Nar. Ashabul Yameen and Ashabul Shimal. But Allah says, no, there's a third group. وَالسَّابِقُونَ السَّابِقُونَ أُولَٰئِكَ الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. There's a third class. There are the believers, and then there are the elites. So you have believers, but Allah is not just talking about any believers. Because there are some mu'mineen who don't exhibit this quality. You think all of the mu'mineen are أشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم? If they're أشداء على الكفار, if all mu'mineen are أشداء على الكفار, what happened on the day of Khandaq? When Amr ibn Wadd al-Amri was challenging everybody, what happened to أشداء على الكفار? No one was أشداء على الكفار. Only one man. So in the Quran, there are الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, and then there are what? الَّذِينَ مَعَهُ. Those who are with the Prophet, who are the closest ones to the Prophet. What is the description that Allah gives? أَشِدَّاءُ عَلَى الْكُفَّارِ رُحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُم. Brothers and sisters, this ayah the description of this ayah fits no one among the companions other than Ali ibn Abi Talib. أشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم. Brothers and sisters, what is amazing about Ali ibn Abi Talib is that he possessed antithetical qualities. Qualities that almost seem to be contradictory. You know, if you think of someone who's extremely brave and courageous and fearless, when you think about a warrior, what's the first thing that comes to mind? You know, usually when someone exhibits the quality of shaja'ah, bravery, courage, fearlessness, chances are such a person is not going to be very gentle and merciful. What typically happens in human beings is that when one quality is intensified, other qualities are compromised. So for example, you guys have seen the movie 300, yes? When you think about, you know, ancient Greece, Spartans, you know, I don't remember any scenes where, you know, they were sitting and, you know, stroking the heads of orphans, and they were very fierce, harsh, tough. So when you look at the Spartans of ancient Greece, I don't think anyone would describe them as, wow, that's such a compassionate group of people. The gladiators of Rome, would you describe them as, wallah, they're very soft people. So much rahmah in them. They're merciless. They have no mercy. They're trained to kill. They have this quality of shaja'ah, and they were able to develop it because what? They crushed the side of mercy. They almost had to eradicate mercy from their hearts to reach these levels of bravery and courage. The Vikings, the samurais, you think of any warrior that you can imagine. They're fearless, they're tough, they're rough, but they lack what? They lack mercy. They lack compassion. And conversely, usually when you see someone who's very compassionate, very gentle, very merciful, chances are they're probably not going to be the most fearless or the most brave. Generally, when one quality increases, it's almost like they're inversely proportionate. When courage increases, mercy and compassion decreases. When you look at, for example, people who are off the charts intelligent, what typically happens? When someone is very, very intelligent, they spend day and night in the library, usually they're probably not going to be the most social people. That's why, you know, a lot of your professors, they're socially awkward. Right? Because he's a dork, right? Of course, you don't want to call him that. But usually they spend a lot of time reading and they forget how to interact with other human beings. So they're highly intelligent, but they're socially awkward. They lose that sociability. People who have a lot of power, people who are in high positions of power, typically you see that they like to indulge. They like to live a lavish life. It's very rare to find someone who's a king or an emperor or a president who lives a very simple life. He sleeps on the floor? No, he's not going to sleep on the floor. All of them private jets, they live it up. Someone who loves God, right? Someone, you know, when you increase your love of God, what happens usually? Your fear of Him starts to diminish. If you increase your fear of God to a very high level, your love of God starts to decrease. It's difficult to strike a balance. But with Amir al-Mu'mineen, all of these areas, you know, that's why the poet describes Ali ibn Abi Talib. He says, هو البكاء في المحراب ليلا. That Ali ibn Abi Talib, he is the one at night, he's crying in his mihrab. هو البكاء في المحراب ليلا هو الضحاك إذا اشتد الضراب. But in the battlefield, he's smiling. No one was able to shake Ali ibn Abi Talib. He was unshakable. You know, it reminds me of, you know, the battle, all of you know the Battle of Uhud. The Battle of Uhud was an amazing day. It was a day where Allah tested the believers. In the Battle of Uhud, of course, many of the companions, they disobeyed the Prophet. And the Prophet was surrounded by his enemies, and someone in the midst of this commotion, there was a stampede, someone shouted out, لَقَدْ مَاتَ مُحَمَّد. Muhammad is dead. The Prophet fell, his front teeth broke. So what happened? Almost all of them retreated. Many years later, someone asks Amir al-Mu'mineen, "Oh Ali, in the Battle of Uhud, almost everybody ran. Why did you stick around? You didn't run. Everybody ran. Why did you stay firm? Your feet were firmly planted." The Imam says, "Go ask the people who ran. Ask them, see what they say." So this person, the Rawi, he goes and he asks, many of the companions were still alive, "Why did you run?" They said, "Because someone shouted, لَقَدْ مَاتَ Muhammad. Muhammad has died, and we ran because we thought to ourselves that if Muhammad is dead, there's no point in fighting. If Muhammad has been killed, there's no point in fighting." So he comes back to Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says that I asked them why they ran, why they retreated in the Battle of Uhud. They said because someone yelled out that Muhammad has been killed, and if Muhammad has been killed, there's no point in fighting. You know what Ali ibn Abi Talib says? He says, to me, if Muhammad has been killed, the reason why I stayed is because if Muhammad was killed, there's no point in living. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, if Muhammad has been killed, I want to fight and die with him. This is the difference between Ali ibn Abi Talib and others. He says, I didn't run because if the Prophet has been killed, there's no point in living after that. هو البكاء في المحراب ليلا هو الضحاك وإذا اشتد الضرر. He had these antithetical qualities. No one would bring him down to his knees. He was unshakable. Can you imagine, in the Battle of Badr, Ali ibn Abi Talib, sometimes we forget how young he was in these battles. On the day that the Prophet died, sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, Amir al-Mu'mineen was 33 years old. Which means in the Battle of Badr, he was maybe 23 years old. 23. A 23-year-old kills 35 out of the 70. Battle after battle, he demonstrates his courage and his valor. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he even says, لو اجتمعت العرب على قتالي لما وليت عنها مدبرا. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, if all of the Arabs gathered to fight me and it was just one against all of them, I wouldn't turn away and run. One thing that we learn from Ali ibn Abi Talib is that if Allah is with you, it doesn't matter who's against you. This is an important lesson that we learn from Ali. We always complain about we're outnumbered, we're a minority. If Allah is with you, if you're obedient to Allah, it doesn't matter who's against you. And this is an important lesson we learn from Ali. So no one could shake him, no one could bring him down to his knees. But this same Imam, if he were to see an orphan, he would break down. He had a very soft heart. Amr ibn Wudd al-Amiri could not shake him. But if Amir al-Mu'mineen, he sees a widow, if he sees an orphan, he couldn't control his tears. The Imam alayhi salam, he says, ما إن تأوهت لشيء رزيت به كما تأوهت للأيتام في الصغر. There's nothing that shakes me and brings more sorrow to me than seeing little orphans, because they have no protector, they're vulnerable. So the Imam alayhi salam, he was fierce, but he was also gentle. Such a gentle soul, brothers and sisters. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he was so gentle that he would go out in the middle of the night to distribute food to poor families. Can you imagine? Why? Why would he bother himself with this? Because someone like Ali ibn Abi Talib cannot sleep if he knows that people are hungry. Have you ever seen a warrior like this? Unshakable in the battlefield, unflinching courage. But he's so concerned about people. You know the story about the widow, Amir al-Mu'mineen. He was the Khalifa at the time. And he saw a widow she was walking with her orphans in the street. She was carrying some heavy bags, a heavy load. The Imam alayhi salam, of course the Imam, he doesn't have an entourage of bodyguards. There's no motorcade. He's not even, if you were to look at him and you didn't know Ali ibn Abi Talib, you would think that it's just an average person. Unfortunately, if you go to Iraq, 60 cars, bodyguards. It's not even the prime minister, some assistant who works in an office of the mayor. All these bodyguards, all this. For what? Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, the Khalifa of an empire that covers 50 countries on today's map. He sees a widow and he offers to help. When he offers her help, she says, "May God bless you, may Allah reward you, and may God never forgive Ali ibn Abi Talib." If it was you and I, we would say, whoa. I'm Ali ibn Abi Talib. What are you saying? He doesn't even tell her who he is. He stays silent. He says, why? Why do you say, why are you making dua that Allah never forgives Ali ibn Abi Talib? She says, my husband went to war with him and he was killed in battle. And now look at these orphans. My life is a mess. The Imam alayhi salam, when he heard that, it broke his heart. The Imam, he walks with her. He says, let me get you some more food. He brings food. He says to her that, would you like me to cook for you and your family? I want to offer you some help. Would you like me to cook, or I can play with your children, with the orphans? She says, I'll cook, you just keep the orphans entertained. The Imam, he gets down on his knees and he starts playing with them. Have you ever seen any warrior like this? Any president, any prime minister? Maybe they'll do it if there are cameras. If there are cameras, they might do it. But there's no one there. The Imam doesn't even disclose his identity. Imagine Amir al-Mu'mineen playing with these children as if he is their slave. The woman's neighbor comes into the house. She had seen Ali ibn Abi Talib before. She sees Amir al-Mu'mineen. She says, what's that? She says to the woman that this is Ali ibn Abi Talib. This is the commander of the faithful. He's babysitting your children. What's the matter with you? The woman didn't know what to say. The moment she realized that this is Ali ibn Abi Talib, she remembered cursing him. She said, Ya Amir, please forgive me. I didn't mean what I said. The Imam says, no. The Imam says, I want you to forgive me. Look at the humility of Ali ibn Abi Talib. This is the same man who kills Amr ibn Wadd al-Amiri, who is Asadullah al-Ghalib, humbling himself before a widow and her orphans. So he was courageous, but he had a very soft heart. The Imam alayhi salam was also, as I said, people who are very knowledgeable, they're not very social. Usually they're not very social. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, his knowledge, we can't even comprehend it. On his deathbed, سلوني سلوني قبل أن تفقدوني. Ask me before you lose me. سلوني عن طرق السماء أنا أعلم بها من طرق الأرض. Ask me about the paths of the heavens, because I'm even more familiar with them than the paths of the earth. So approachable. You know, there was a man by the name of Dirar. Dirar was one of the companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And Dirar was in Syria. He was in Damascus in the court of Muawiyah. Muawiyah knew that Dirar, this was after the death of Ali ibn Abi Talib. He knew that Dirar was a friend of Ali. So Muawiyah, he says, Ya Dirar, صف لي Ali ibn Abi Talib. Oh Dirar, describe Ali ibn Abi Talib. Dirar says, أعفني عن ذلك. Please excuse me from describing him. Dirar didn't know, is this a trap? He didn't know what to do. Muawiyah threatens him. He says, no, I am the Khalifa. I've given you an order. I want you to describe Ali ibn Abi Talib. He describes the Imam, and one of the things that he says, it's a very beautiful description. He says, كَانَ فِينَا كَأَحَدِنَا. The Imam alayhi salam, despite his immense knowledge, Dirar says, you know, there was a conversation between Amir al-Mu'mineen and Umar ibn al-Khattab. Umar ibn al-Khattab, one day he says to Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ya Ali, I've noticed that whenever someone asks you a question, any question, you immediately respond. You know the answer right away. How is that? It doesn't even seem like you need to think. They can ask you the most detailed jurisprudential, theological question, a question relating to an ayah in the Quran, immediately you have the answer. How is that possible? Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, he raises his hands. He asks Umar, how many fingers do you see? Umar said 5. The Imam alayhi salam says, why did you answer right away? Umar says, because I can clearly see that you have 5 fingers. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, this is how all knowledge is to me. علمني رسول الله ألف باب من العلم يفتح لي من كل باب ألف باب. My beloved Rasulullah taught me 1,000 doors of knowledge. Each door opens up 1,000 doors. Amir al-Mu'mineen is an ocean. You would think someone like that, you can't even approach them. Have you been to some schools? Some professors, because he has a PhD, if you don't call him doctor, they'll flip out. They're not approachable. Dirar says, كَانَ فِينَا كَأَحَدِنَا. That when he was with us, he was one of us. He didn't distinguish himself. He would sit with us. He would talk with us. يُجِيبُنَا إِذَا سَأَلْنَا. When we would ask him questions, he never made us feel stupid. We would ask and he would answer so gracefully. وَيُنْبِئُنَا إِذَا اسْتَنْبَأْنَا. When we would ask him about anything, he would respond to us. And then he says, وَنَحْنُ وَاللَّهِ مَعَ قُرْبِهِ مِنَّا لَا نَكَادُ نُكَلِّمُهُ هَيْبَةً لَهُ. Dirar says, even though we felt so close to him, sometimes it would be difficult for us to speak to him because of how much we revered him. You know, when you're sitting in the presence of a great personality, no matter how much they try to humble themselves, it's still difficult to carry a conversation with them. So on the one hand, Amir al-Mu'mineen, he's able to combine these two antithetical qualities, supreme knowledge with this down-to-earth attitude, this sociability. And the Imam alayhi salam, he had great political power. He had Baytul Mal under his control. You know, people, when they get access to money, all of a sudden what happens? You see they start wearing the nicest clothes, they start buying the best cars, they live in mansions. People who have access to money, they show it. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, you think Amir al-Mu'mineen was poor? Amir al-Mu'mineen was not poor. He was high in production, but he was very low in consumption. He used to give. After the assassination of Uthman, the entire ummah surrounded his house. This is probably the first time in history where the people are begging someone to be the Khalifa. Usually, you know, today people, they have to campaign, they have to try to convince you, please vote for me. Amir al-Mu'mineen, they were begging him. They begged him. And they all came from all around the Islamic empire to pay allegiance to him. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen was inside of his house. What was he doing? He was fixing his sandals. They had torn. The Imam was sewing. He was stitching his sandals. People are lined up to give bay'ah, to pledge allegiance to him. He's gonna become the Khalifa. All of these people have been fighting for power. It's now presented to Amir al-Mu'mineen on a silver platter. They're all lined up to put their hands in his hands and declare and pay him allegiance. Ibn Abbas, he comes inside. Everyone is looking. Where's Ali ibn Abi Talib? He sees that Ali ibn Abi Talib is stitching his sandals. Ibn Abbas says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, everyone is waiting. Delegations from all around Arabia are here to pay you allegiance as Khalifatul Muslimin. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he looked up. He says, Ya Ibn Abbas, ma qiyamatu hadhihi an-na'al? What do you think this sandal is worth? Ibn Abbas, what are you talking about? Everyone is here to give you allegiance. You're asking me how much a sandal costs? The Imam says, yeah, how much is it? If I wanted to sell it, how much is it worth? Ibn Abbas says it's worthless. Maybe a dirham, maybe 2 dirhams max. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says, Wallah, lahiya ahabbu ilayya min imratikum. This sandal is more beloved to me than the Khilafah. Illa an uqima haqqan aw adfa'a batila. This sandal is more beloved to me, it has more value to me than this Khilafah, unless I use this position to uphold justice and eradicate injustice. That's the only way that power has value. This was Amir al-Mu'mineen's attitude. Such a simple person. You know, on his deathbed, this is after he was struck by Ibn Muljam. You know, you can imagine that it's the best month out of the year, the best day out of the week, Friday. You're doing the best action, which is salah. You are in the best part of the salah, sujood. Someone strikes you on your head. You are gonna die as a shaheed in a day or two. Is there any doubt that you're from Ahlul Jannah? His daughter brings a tray. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, he's gonna die. He's on his deathbed. She brings food. What is on the tray? Remember, he's Khalifatul Muslimin. Dry bread, khubz al-sha'ir, dry bread, and a cup of yogurt and salt. When Amir al-Mu'mineen saw this, you know, you would think that I'm only gonna live for a day or two. Let me eat the best food. Let me enjoy the last day or two that I have. I'm gonna die as a shaheed. Jannah is guaranteed. But look what the Imam says. He says to her, Ya Bunayya, أتريدين أن يطول وقوفي بين يدي الله عز وجل. Oh my daughter, do you want to prolong my standing on the day of judgment before Allah? This is too much. Rasulullah never ate more than one type of food. Remove one of them for me. This dunya, Imam Amir al-Mu'minin says, he says, في حلالها حساب وفي حرامها عقاب. That Allah will question you even about the permissible. Just because something is, it's got, Imam al-Sadiq, he gives a very beautiful analogy. The more you take from dunya, the longer you're going to stand on the day of judgment. It's inescapable. The Imam gives an analogy. He says, imagine there are two ships that want to cross a checkpoint. One ship is empty and one ship is full of merchandise. Which one is going to pass through quicker? The empty ship or the one that has all of the merchandise? The empty one. Even if all of the merchandise is legal and it still has to be examined. You're going to be questioned about it. Amir al-Mu'minin, he tells his daughter that don't prolong my stand on the day of judgment. No, I'm not saying, brothers and sisters, that we should live like Ali ibn Abi Talib. The Imam himself, he says that we can't. ألا وإن إمامكم قد اكتفى من دنياه بطمري ومن طعمه بقرصي. That your Imam used to have, he has satisfied himself with 2 pieces of clothing. Amir al-Mu'minin, he had only 2 pairs of clothes. One in the winter and one in the summer. That's it. Some of us, we wear 3 outfits in one day. The Imam says, his clothes only 2 garments, and my meals are only 2 meals. He would eat bread, dry bread, 1 loaf in the morning, 1 loaf at night. That's it. The Imam says, إنكم لا تقدرون على ذلك. The Imam says, you cannot be like me. You can't. I don't want you to walk away from this lecture and says, okay, I'm only going to wear 2 pieces of clothing and eat dry bread. The Imam says, ألا وإنكم لا تقدرون على ذلك. Imam says, you can't do it. You can't be like me. So what should you do? ولكن أعينوني بورع واجتهاد. The Imam says, you cannot be like, this is what your Imam is like. As his follower, at least have wara'. Be God conscious. ولكن أعينوني بورع واجتهاد. Put in some effort. Try. Some of us, we don't even try. Tomorrow, Salatul Fajr. Some of us, we don't even put the alarm clock. We don't even try. There's a movie that we shouldn't be watching. We don't even lower our gaze. We don't even try. The Imam says, try. That's all that is expected from you. To do your best. Do what is within your capacity. So the Imam alayhi salam, the courageous one who had a gentle heart. The supremely knowledgeable who was approachable. The one who had absolute political power but lived a simple life. He struck the perfect balance. And then the one who had intense love of God and intense fear of God. In Islam, we have ahadith that say that the heart of a mu'min should be between 2 things. It's like the heart of the mu'min has 2 wings. The wing of fear, al-khawf, and the wing of hope. Fear and hope. Al-khawf wal-raja. The problem is, most of us, we can't strike a balance. There are some of us, we are so afraid of God, we commit a sin and we say, that's it, I'm going to Jahannam. Too much fear that makes you hopeless. Despair. And some of us, we have so much hope in Allah's mercy. Habibi, turn on Rihanna, Justin Bieber, let's listen to all of them. Because Allah is Arhamar Rahimin. I know maybe my pop culture references are outdated, right? But the point is, some of us, we don't have this balance. You should never say that for sure Allah is going to send me to paradise because I'm such a wonderful person. Nor should you say that for sure because I committed this sin I'm going to go to the hellfire. Neither of them. You have to have fear and hope. And we'll conclude with this. Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he was that perfect balance between fear of God and hope in Him. Abu Darda was a companion of the Prophet. He says, one night, it was late at night, and I was walking in the orchards of Medina, out in the outskirts. Suddenly I heard a man, I heard a familiar voice reciting dua outside under the moon. I was able to recognize that this was the voice of Ali ibn Abi Talib, making dua under the sky, under the stars. He says, I heard the Imam say, I was listening to him, Ilahi أفكر في عفوك إلهي أفكر في عفوك فتهون علي خطيئتي. Oh Allah, when I think about your forgiveness and your mercy, the weight of my sins, it diminishes. ثم أذكر العظيم من أخذك فَتَعْظُمُ عَلَيَّ بَلِيَّتِي. And then I remember the severity of your punishment, and I am overwhelmed. Abu Darda, he says, I heard Amir al-Mu'mineen crying, weeping bitterly, supplicating to Allah until he stopped, and I couldn't hear anything anymore. He says, I walked to go see what happened to Ali. He said that I saw that he was laying on the ground, unconscious. Abu Darda, he comes close to the body of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He starts to shake the body. He says, I came close to him, فَوَجَدْتُهُ كَالْخَشَبَةِ الْيَابِسَةِ. That I saw that the Imam was unconscious. I tried to shake him, he was not regaining consciousness. Abu Darda says, I panicked and I ran to the house of Fatima. Abu Darda says, he must be dead. I tried to wake him up, he was non-responsive. He was unresponsive. I went to the house of Fatima, I knocked on the door, Fatima to Zahra opened, and I told her, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. May Allah give you patience. Ali has collapsed. Ali has died. Fatima alayhi salam, she says to him, what happened? What was he doing? Abu Darda, he says to her that I saw him in the outskirts of Medina. He was supplicating and I heard him crying and crying until he fell and he died. He's unresponsive. Fatima to Zahra, she knows her husband. She says, La wallah. She says, Wallah, hiya al-ghashyatu allati ta'aridhuhu kulla layla. That this is what happened. This is what happens to him every single night. That he faints from the fear of God, from the love of God. Now again, وَإِنَّكُمْ لَا تَقْدِرُونَ عَلَى ذَلِكَ. You can't be like that. But what you can do is what? Pray on time. Take your salah more seriously. You spend how many hours a day on social media? 5 minutes read dua. Is it going to kill you if you spend 5 minutes? You put alarm clocks for everything. Put alarm clocks for your salah. ولكن لا تقدرون على ذلك ولكن أعينوني بورع واجتهاد. You can't do that, but help me with God consciousness and effort. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to bless us and guide us and illuminate our hearts with the teachings of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين.